Hi, guys. Welcome to the Human Design Geeks Podcast, a podcast on everything life through the lens of the human design system. We get together every week. We put our hearts and minds together in the service of the collective awakening. Joined in our passion for this beautiful and profound knowledge, our intention is to educate, bring awareness, and triggering meaningful change in everyone sincerely looking for it. We do our best to make this knowledge digestible and relatable. If it resonates with you, hit the subscribe button somewhere here, it's usually here, and let us know. Give us comments, give us feedback. We love to hear from you. We love to know that this is useful for you. If you have any questions, please do comment. Please do get in touch with us. Um, we hope that this is useful. Thank you for joining us today again. We hope that you watched previous episodes as well, because today we're actually continuing on the previous episode. And let's dive right into it, you guys. You enjoy, and we will surely enjoy the sexuality part 2. Willie, I'm gonna ask you to fill us in on where did we left off last week.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk about sex again, Marta and
Let's talk
Juju.
about sex.
Yes, I probably the first episode were blown up because we are very curious human beings who love to talk about sex or know a lot of things about sex. And actually, if you look at through the human design lens, it's very logical because a lot of things in the human design referring to a way of how sexuality works. And we talked in the previous episode a lot about like the main thing, how it organically works. So you have from the sacral and the emotional and the splenic. So you have more the more caring side on the splenic, and the emotions are more with the passion and the, and where we left off, what I remember is that we were talking about the different circuitry in sexuality is working, and we talked about the tribal circuitry. That's where we ended the last season of the last episode, and then we wanted to go to the individual way of how sexuality works, and we still have the collective circuitry left. And we ended a little bit because Juju needed to go, and we ended a little bit in the spicy area because yeah, individual sexuality is, I think, very interesting. It's also one of my gates, the gate of 55. It's in there, so I know a little bit about that kind of way how sexuality works. But maybe it's good to make a small roundup of the tribal to understand. Yay, the balloons! It's the balloons,
I think
and
Marta wanted to ask something.
yes, I think so too.
Yeah,
So.
I did. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I did want to ask something for the people like this one and even earlier in their human design journey. Could you guys please, in the simple, digestible, relatable words, explain what is circuitry? Tribal circuitry. What is that?
Yes. So I will start off, and then Juju can probably fill me in very wisely. So if we talk about circuitry, you have a lot of different kind of circuitry, and what we mean by that is that you have the gates in human design. You have 64 gates in human design, and so the 64 numbers. They're all differently spread through the body graph, and you can make channels, which means that maybe Juju, you can open up maybe a design of us, and then I can maybe explain it a little bit with the also with the video next to it. So you have channels, and for example, I have the channel 1034, for example. Oh, this is us. So these
Mhm.
three designs are us, and I'm totally at the right side. So for people who are listening to it, I have the 1034 as a channel, which is an individual channel. And you have actually three ways of circuitry. It's maybe more complicated, but I think it's easy to make it at three. You have the tribal circuitry, which is very originated from our tribal, the ancestors of, surviving community, food, bargain, like very tribal. I think you can have an idea about what tribal is. And we talked about tribal sex, which is, the tribal sex is the bargain. It is, we have this deal with each other. You are my, you are my lover, you are my mate, you are my husband, you are my wife. And we made this, our tribal commitment. So we need to have sex because that is our obligation towards each other. But most of the times the sex is in the dark with the lights off, just as a contract in a way. And I don't know, it doesn't sound really, happy or
Delicious.
something. No, yeah, but it's also the way it works. I mean, we made this promise to each other. It is the way the tribal works, and we need to produce. We need to make our family bigger, our tribe bigger, and it is the obligation towards each other to make this sexual contract, as we can say it in a way. So that you have the tribal circuitry, and then you have in human design the individual circuitry, which we're going to talk about in sex in a few moments when we talked about circuitry. And individual is how it's called. It is individual. It is something you are, and it is the place where you inspire in a way other people to be you. So you are fully in this yourself. It is something you are individual doing, and people are watching it and they are getting, like, oh, this is interesting what this person is doing or saying or whatever the individual circuitry in where it is in the body graph. For you, Marta, you have a lot of individual circuitry in your body graph. So you are very you, and it is your own process where you're in. But with that process, you are inspiring, empowering, this is the better word, empowering other people because you are you.
Mhm.
And that's the individual circuitry. Not going to talk about sexuality. We're going to talk about later because the individual sexuality circuitry is very juicy, and I think Juju is ready to rumble the individual sexuality.
Let's
Um,
go.
and then you have the collective circuitry, and the collective is also saying it is not for you in a way, it's for the collective. It is not tribal, because tribal is very in your own small community with the people you're around with. Collective is really for the greater good. It is, as collective the word means, it is information you send out. What can happen in that circuitry is you think it is for yourself. So people who have a lot of collective channels or gates, they think everything they think and do, they think it is for them, but they need to share that gift they have, to be collective with it, to send it out into the cosmos and be of worth for the collective evolve of the human being,
Mhm.
evolution of the human being. So that is the collective circuitry, and collective circuitry in sexuality. Then we get in the real juicy material. So I don't know, Juju, if I explained the circuitry correctly. It is not fully my first knowledge, but this is how I would explain it in a pretty fast way.
No, pretty good. It's and I've noticed the patterns. We don't have, well, only one of us has this collective
Yep.
channel, and the rest of you have very individual. So maybe you can like, how would you say that the connection between circuitry channels that you have in the circuitry and your sexuality, or is it just focused here?
Sorry, that is a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, the question is.
How, if you have, what's the connection between your circuitry, your channels, having channels as collective, or like for Marta, she has like one, two, three channels in individual circuitry. How does that link to the sexuality? Because, for example, Marta doesn't have any channels. She has one activation in the individual, the 39.
Yes, true. So if we talk about sexuality, then we talk about exactly what you mean. It's on the right side of the body graph. So we talk about specific channels where sexuality is coming from. So I would say the channels Marta has, like the 1/8 or the 2/14, that is not particularly a place where sexuality is happening. It is happening between the emotional center and the throat, and the emotional center and the root. So these channels there are very important for the sexuality what we talk about. So maybe it's good, Juju, to maybe find one body graph that maybe people can see it more clear at one body graph, because I think it is very small in the all the body graphs. So if it's
Okay.
so if we talk about the sexuality in the channels now, we talked about the tribal, which is the 4037 we talked about, and the 1949, which Juju as a has this channel actually. Yes, let's grab the open. This is the channel Juju has, and this is the tribal. We talked about it last time. And tribal is what we talked about. It is the bargain. It is the touch is very important for these people. They need to be, it needs to be touched, you know, like the body needs to be caressed, it needs to be embraced, it needs to be, you know, that is where the sexuality is going from. So I would say that if people have these channels here, and maybe you, Juju, you have one of these channels, maybe you can elaborate a little bit again on the touching thing, you know, like how important that is for you to, you know, get turned on, or, you know, like, because that is what sexuality is meaning. It's like how is your system being turned on? We talked about it last time, Marta, with you know, like which gates there are, you know, like pointing to that emotional center, and like, oh, probably you like the, you know, the challenge in that with the, you know, it always needs to be a little bit more of a, I don't know the word we used back then, but and then you were like immediately like laughing, like, oh my God, this is so true. This is the way how I get, you know, opened up in sexuality. But how does it work for you, Juju?
Yeah, like you said, touch, caressing. If I get attention, of course, as a projector, and then there's some sort of touch, my body melts. Like I feel like it's to be in a connection, in a intimate connection where there's an avoidance of touch,
Mm-hmm.
then I get a bit like something's not right. But hand in hand, even just walking around and then just grabbing the hand of the person I'm with before anything happens, and just like, oh wow, this is, and then really getting a flow of energy like much stronger than just presence. So for me, that touch, yeah, super important.
So that is, I think, interesting what you mentioned, because maybe people will say, yeah, but for everybody, touch is important, right? And for me personally, that is so not true, because I mean, it's not that I don't like being touched or that but that physical aspect of me in my design, it is not something where I get turned on from. You know, it's like, it's not something that, it's not a place for me that, you know, like immediately, like, you know, like cuddling. And I like it. It's not that I don't like it, but it's not the place where my passion is going up, or where, you know, I just love holding my wife and it's just, you know, being sweet and lovely. But it's not the place for me where I get excited. But for Juju, it probably is a place where when a person comes by and a person lays, you know, like a hand on the shoulder, or, you know, like these small details of touch, that is immediately for him probably a place like, oh, this is something I, you know, my body is working for, or where I get excited about. So yeah, that is a difference. Do you notice this, Marta, with you, or do you have like experience with that?
I was just thinking that I also feel like I'm pretty much into touch as well.
Yeah, you have
For
gate 40, right?
more, yeah. So that works too when you have half a channel, right?
Well, when it's getting on, turned on, like when, I mean, you have that quality in you. So that 40 gate is a tribal gate. That means touch is there an important thing for you to be.
It is. The more
And
affectionate, the more affectionate I am, the more I'm touchy. I
yeah,
just
so yeah, and it also depends, and that's interesting, of course, when two auras are coming together. It's like, for example, if somebody is coming with a 37 with you in your aura, and it's also a match in that way, then something is, you know, like in that touching field, in that tribal field, in that bargain field of, you know, we do this for each other, like we can make this commitment towards each other. So I can imagine if you find a man with a 37 and going in there, that magic is happening there.
Mhm.
But for me, I mean, I don't have any tribal gate or channel whatsoever in that whole. I mean, for me, it's a fully open place, to be honest. So it's for me a lot of about caring with the spleen working there. But that's maybe a whole other episode. But yeah, so that is the tribal, and we ended last time with the individual circuitry, which we're gonna talk about now, and what we get excited about that we maybe Marty we were playing a little bit with you because ooh the individual and like oh this is where it happens, and then you're like I want to hear this stop why we just stop. But yeah, if we talk about the individual, we're talking about Juju is now coloring it in. We talk about the 1222. That's from the throat to the emotional center. And we
Mm.
talk about the 55, which the gate I have, the 55 and the 39. This is the individual channel. And if I'm starting off, and I think Juju knows also a lot about this, but sound is a very, so we talked about touch in the tribal.
Yes.
Sound is a very important thing for these channels. And even if you don't take it with sexuality, in the 12 and 1222, a lot of these people love listening to music, loving poetry, the voice, how we talk, how we sound. I know a lot of people who are so into knowing every detail of music, like listening to it all the time, putting on music in the morning when you wake up, having music all around you. 100% these people have the 12 or the 1222 somewhere, and that is also with the sound. If we talk about sexuality, which I think is more happening though in the 3955, I don't know, that's maybe a presumption for me, but in that case, for me, for example, making sounds during sex or making sounds during being intimate is very important. So, for example, if I meet a person and in my history when I met girls and there were not, I mean, there was nothing happening sound wise. I always got so confused. I was like always I immediately wasn't in it anymore because I need to have that sound and I mean it's also personal because sometimes people can make sound and you're like, "Oh my God, this is not
Yeah.
sexual at all," right?
Oh.
But yes, right. But there is the sound and it is as I remembered you have the left ear and the right ear. So in the emotional, I think the emotional side is the left ear and the splenic side is the right ear. And the difference is that the right ear in the spleen is like always listening to the danger. So if there is, like if you hear some sound in the bushes, you're like, oh my God, is that a lion? Do I survive this? It's a splenic thing. But the left ear, it is, talking in the left ear and I like you so much. You're so beautiful. I want to hold you. Give me here, like in the left ear. If that sound is coming through in what kind of way, then it's, the sexuality is happening there. So we went into the jujus, into the jujus last time that, sound, making sound. So if you have something going on there, probably sound is a very important thing. I don't know more, maybe Juju, more besides sounds about the individual circuitry.
Yeah, I mean, you captured the essence of it very good, the sound, but it's also that's funny because you say you really need to have sound and hear sound, and I've just identified where we each have a activation. I have the 12, Marta has 39, you have the 55. We each have one or two activation in these
Yeah,
but the thing is like sound is not necessary for me. I'm more cautious, 12 is like cautious, but it's
yeah,
kind of interesting to hear but it's also about conversation, about going deep, how, going deep in depth into each other, into the discussion, into the
Yeah.
words that so it's not just like, ooh la la, yeah, like
true. Yeah, yeah. It
it's
is
it,
it is romantic, huh? It's the individual is romantic, and the tribal is actually lights off, and the individual is candlelight. It is, it is the romantic. It is passion. It is, and I think it's good what you say about conversations because even though the 12 is cautious, because the gate of caution, it is important for you to choose your words right, right, as a gate 12. So, but the words who are chosen. So if you hear a person talks very, well, and like that's why poetry also is coming from the 12. It's like using words, using the correct words in the sentences. I could imagine that for you, it is a turn on. So if a person is really, properly speaking, being aware of the words it's using, the sound is coming from out the mouth in a way of how, like poetry is, portrayed, or like, but also music, how singing, and like, so I could imagine that is something for you, Juju, is very important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's really the frequency of the words. It's like, if somebody is like on a very like punk rock or angry like frequency, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how deep, like I will get
Yeah.
shaken out. If the words that are coming out are aggressive and attacking, then I will be
Yes.
like, it will shake me.
Interesting. Yeah. My wife also has the 12. She has exactly the same. For her, like people who are talking loud or like aggressive, it is immediately something she's closing up, like immediately going into this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it happened to me recently, a couple month or two ago, and I was like, no, I cannot.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
But for you, but how about for you as a 39 and 55? Like, do you have the same impact, or is it just specifically to the 12?
I don't know. What do you think, Marta? How would you describe the 39? If we talk about the 39, we talk about last time. It's about teasing. It is, like
Flirting.
the provoking energy, uh,
Flirting. Yeah.
flirty, yeah, teasing. Actually, that's maybe the best word to describe, as Ra
Teasing,
described it.
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
I like teasing. Like it's not that I like, it's just what happens with me unconsciously, right? For me, this is it. This is the gate of flirting, right?
Yeah,
39.
so the 39 is the 19 is flirting and the 39 is teasing, but I think that is very close to each other to call.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, but I mean, like teasing, flirting. I mean, like
Yeah,
I think
that,
I think flirting. I think flirting is that's an interesting discussion actually. Like, what is the difference between flirting and teasing? I think teasing is something leaving behind, and like showing something, and then go off into the distance, and like, wait a minute, is this person playing with me? It's teasing. And flirting is like, I think, really into this, and like, you're beautiful, and
right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what you're saying is kind of resonating because I do like I guess it's about like and you mentioned something in the last week when we were talking about it's liking to pursue and being pursued.
Yes.
So it's teasing to be pursued.
Yes.
It's like this game. I see.
Yes, it's saying
It's
yes.
and it's unconscious. It's unconscious. It's
Uh-huh.
like, I like the game. I just like the game. I guess it turns me on.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's like, but it's also specific. So I mean, there will also be people teasing with you, or you're teasing, and it doesn't work. You feel like this is not the type of teasing where my energy is
Yes,
going into. So there's also, like, it's
yes.
not that every teasing is working. It is a
No.
specific way of teasing, which is for you working in
Yeah.
that kind of area, where your body
Okay.
is, you know.
Yes.
Or your sacral is saying, uh-huh, or like.
Yeah.
Ooh la la.
Like it has to be tasteful in
Hmm.
my if it's vulgar, I'd be like, ugh,
Yeah.
go away. So
Yes.
yeah, you're very
Yeah,
right.
so I wrote down all the gates, and I wrote like the 39 is needing. It's also called the needing, and sexual attention. So it is, and then teasing. So it is something, to be attentive of that energy is important for you, I would say,
Hmm.
as the
And
39. And
what is meant by needing?
well, needing is, I mean, so I would say I mean, if you say needing and then like, what was it again? Sexual attention and teasing. So there's something of the body, and it's also provocation. So there is something, uh, if we don't call it in the sexuality, it's provoking the spirit, right? I'm the 55. It's the gate of the spirit. It's provoking the spirit. It's provoking the emotional center. It's provoking something has to happen. Come on, something needs to be needing. It needs to be the
Mhm.
sexual attention of this. There needs to something to happen. Let's tease this up. Let's provoke this, and let's provoke this 55, which is me. So to be honest, and I can sense this energy from the beginning with us because I almost almost certainly know when I'm met even though if it's a man or woman doesn't matter. Like when there's immediately this kind of, like in a way of provoking in a interesting way. It's like I can feel, oh, this is a 39. This is somebody who is provoking my 55, and and it's always a little bit like, "Ugh." So like that, and yeah, that is a natural thing how it works. So I would say it is more in that kind of way that 39 is, it is searching out, it's poking out to provoke that emotional center to let's come on, let's get the spirit in, let's get the 55 in, let's something needs to happen here,
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's looking for an emotional experience. And
exactly.
yes, 100%. Yes,
Spot
Sagar.
on. Spot on.
Because it feels like it's almost like dead, right? And you need that. I need that something to spark. It's like I need a spark.
Yeah.
I'm trying to start a spark.
And it's interesting if you call it at the full channel, the 3955, it is I always call it the Shakespeare channel
Mm.
because it is also there's a lot of melancholy also in there, but it's also the drama is also there. So I know some friends who have children with this channel, and you know, and some morning it is like, I'm in the mood and everything is well, la, la, la. And then one day later it's like they cry to put a sock on. Like it is, I don't want to put my sock on. Like the drama is, it is. I always call it Shakespeare, but it is yeah. So I love the channel. I mean, as a channel it is, I hear a lot of people, they have a tough time, people having this channel be around, or because it's so individual, and it is so, I don't know if guys know the word fickle. uh Fickle, yeah, it means it is the 55. That is my gate. So if we talk about the gate of the 55, fickle means, in Dutch it's called wispelturig. It means like, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. So it is very not reliable in a way. It is
Temporary.
it's temper
Unstable.
yes, unstable in a way, like fickle. It is fickle, and so I'm in the mood or not. I'm in the mood or not, which is also the emotional wave in that individual. It's like neutral, neutral. I'm in the mood. Neutral, neutral. I'm not in the mood. Neutral, neutral. I'm in the mood. Neutral, neutral. I'm not in the mood. And that's also with the Shakespeare line. Everything is going well, and then like, oh my God, the drama is real. And then like, what is happening? There's nothing happening. There is like a rose falling on the ground, and now there's one leaf falling off. What is the drama? But it's like, oh. And the other way, it's like totally the other way around. It's like everything is so beautiful, and no problems at all, and so yeah. And if you combine that with the sexuality, with the romanticism, the sound, and being in the spirit or not, it is something which I very, very notice in my sex life, though.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that is, I think that is the individual. It's like candlelight. We went from lights on, of lights off, to candlelight, and then we go to the experimental sex. Tuk, 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 tuk. The collective, the 4130 and the 3635. This
Oh, that's
is,
what we've been going through for the past more than a month
yes,
collectively. 35,
yes.
36.
That is, I mean, that is a channel. That, ladies and gentlemen, that is a channel.
Oh
Yeah,
my,
so
what is it?
this is I mean, this is experimental, collective. It needs to have new experiences. It starts with the 41, which is the sexual fantasy. It is all about fantasy, having the fantasy, having fantasies. It is an hunger of sexual. It's not really doing it. It is only about the fantasy. So if you only have the 41, it probably stays with the fantasy, and it doesn't come out. You have the 41?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, you have it. Yeah, well. So it is a lot of fantasy. And the 30 on the other side is yearning. It is yearning for that fantasy to happen. It has, to be honest, the 30 is a interesting gate because I always connect it also with a lot of burnouts and stuff because in that gate there's so much happening with people. They so have how do you say, like they want to experience it, but it's not going to happen, and they are so disappointed by it. So they are fully in that yearning of to have that experience. But you can see because it's not going to the throat yet, so it stays there in that root emotional place. But then you have the 36, 35, and if it's working that way up, then it finally can be expressed, that fantasy, the yearning, and then the 36, it's like, let's go, let's have the experimental sex, let's have sex under the couch, let's have sex in the woods, let's have sex in the car, let's have sex, like this is experimental. It needs to have a new experience and going to the 35. So this is like lights on sex. It is like fully in the spotlight and like woo. Ra, I literally heard Ross saying people who have the 36 gate, these people need to fuck. It's literally what he said. These people need to fuck. And it's interesting because if you have that, for example, and you like, for example, and you're in your life and you're like, I always have this urge to have this experience or this new experience, or I have this urge to want to have sex. You can sometimes maybe for yourself be confronted that it's not happening, and then you think something is wrong with you, or like you can have a lot of different ways of looking at it. But if you have it, I would say, no, this is, also when you have the 59, like Juju, the gate of sexuality, that body who is, like always a little bit on in its sexual energy. This is energy you have. So if you have that, I would say embrace it and enjoy it and use it to have that experimental excitement. It's all about excitement, lights on. So,
Use protection.
huh?
Use protection.
Yeah, that's not my not my place to say what people need to do, but
If
so
you
yeah.
got have gate 59, be responsible.
Yes. Well, it is also the place where it is producing though. And as a species, we also need to survive, huh? So it is interesting that if we tone it down to the very simple way of sexuality is as a human being, we evolved from being, just need to reproduce and having that, tribal marriage contract. It went to the romanticism went into it, and eventually the experimental way. That is something our species has evolutionary went through. So we are way more complex sexual being than we were maybe thousands of years ago. So yeah, and I would love to that people own it. So yeah,
Yeah, in my research,
yeah. We
Research.
understand. We understand the research. Yeah.
it's so true. Recently, I had a very nice encounter with somebody with this 4130, and it's complete fantasizing. It's like empowering, and she was like, "Oh, but it's not." She was denying herself sometimes, like, "Oh yeah, but I dream too. It's too much." And I'm like, "No, no, it's you. It's like that power of that imagination of fantasizing, and you could totally see it in the interaction how it was very visual, very intense, and then when it was really visual and intense, like it was like everything was burning, you know, was rising. And also
And that
in my
is the
research,
30, huh? The clinging fire. It's called the clinging fire. It is burning, literally burning there. And that
oh yeah, and it's not even like it needs to happen like the intimacy is just like that imagination
yeah,
that you know,
yearning, yearning.
poof,
Yeah.
and being okay with it. And then, of course, in also 36, yeah, completely correct. Like 36 and also 35, needing to do always new things, like exploring new things and getting turned on by new experiences. Not just in the sexual act, but also in the dating act. Like going to a new place, not going to the same place, eating different dishes, not eating the same dish all the time.
Mm.
So that's my research.
Mm.
Yeah.
How about you guys? Because we only have only Marta has the 41, so she's
The only
the dr-
collective representative.
You are.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I found interesting about Gate 41, I mean, Ra was saying that Gate 41 is actually the starting point, right, of everything. It is, that's also where we go in 2027 when we go to the new cycle, the broader cycle in life. We come back to the 41 again. It is, yeah, the fantasy stays the fantasy. That is so interesting. Like like imagination of a human being. Like it's all about imagination. So your imagination, Marta, must be, you have all these imagination. You see, I mean, probably you see a lot how it happens or what, but it doesn't come to something because it stays there as a 41. And yeah, so I don't know if you can describe it for yourself that, if we talk about the hunger or the sexual hunger or like the imagination in that kind of way, but it is a way broader way than only sex. It is about all the fantasies you can have, right?
I guess so, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's so funny how you don't think about these things. Like I don't didn't think about these things, and now that I hear this you saying this, and I get to reflect, like I hear this reflecting back to me, like yeah, actually yes, there's a lot of especially uh when I meet somebody and there's this like interest there. The 41, I feel like immediately like, oh, what could be?
Yeah, yeah,
What could be?
absolutely.
Like and this and this and that, and there's so much joy. Oh my God, the euphoria of the whole just process of that fantasy.
Yeah.
What could be, but then that is a danger. The opposite side of it is like sometimes I can fall in love with those fantasies and then they crash against reality.
Well, that is the emotional crash we talked about earlier with the emotional wave. In that collective wave, it is building up and it's crashing. And it's crashing in disappointment. So that's why I call the gate 30. Gate 41 has it way less because it's not fueled with that emotional excitement because
Mm.
it's a root energy. So it has the energy, but it's not the way the emotion works. But I know a lot of people who only have the gate 30 and they have so much yearning. So that fantasy you have, it yearns inside. And they have so much expectations and they always get disappointed because it's not happening in the way they imagine it to be, which is for them, it's if people have this, they would recognize like, oh my God, yeah, I'm so disappointed in how it didn't work out that way. But they have people who have the 30, they die when they're old and they die. They always have these not fantasies, but these yearnings. They think, and it never happened for them. It's like they can, how do you say, like recall, like, oh, I always had this fantasy, or I always
Regret.
had this. Sorry?
Are you talking about regret?
Yeah, no, not a regret. It just didn't happen. So they can talk on their deathbed. They can talk about that one man that they passed by and they had a good conversation with, and they always had the yearning that was the love of their life, and they always had that feeling that didn't happen. It is not, and it's always gonna be there somewhere in that system, being disappointed in that, and that's why on the 30 there's always a lot of things happening with the burnout kind of thing because people are so this, oh, not happening it again, not happening it again, and then so I see that a lot happening. But it is a beautiful place where you have this, this yearning, and it is collective, huh? So it is not your individual process; it's a collective thing. So it needs to be shared, and that's, I think, maybe interesting for you, Marta, if you feel invited or like your sacred response. If I would say to you like, oh, what are your fantasies? If you meet a person, what are your fantasies then? What are you thinking about? And then you spread your collective 41 fantasy. It doesn't mean that it's gonna happen, but it will be it's thrown into the collective. And what
Mhm.
can happen though is then that fantasy, somebody's taking it with him or her, and he's like, oh, Marta really wants to jump off the roof and, like have a parachute, and wow, wow, oh, that's her fantasy. Oh, maybe we can make that arrange, la, 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 la. And then in the collective something happened, and then we'll come back to you, and then somebody's saying, wait, Marta, come, we have a surprise for you. And then your fantasy is coming true because you shared your fantasy to the collective, but it's not happening in yourself. And that is the most important thing to understand. It's a collective energy, and it's not for you, from you for you, but it maybe can happen for you.
I just saw that manifested in my life.
Oh,
I
really?
just saw that manifested in my life. I had a fantasy to have a photo shoot in the desert in the Dune movie style,
Yeah.
and I literally shared it and it
Yes.
happened.
Yes.
It wouldn't happen just because I was fantasizing, but I shared it and it happened.
Yes.
It happened so beautifully. I was like, oh,
Well, that is collective energy. That is how the collective is working. And maybe it can be happening that it's not fully the fantasy as it worked out for you in your fantasy, but if you keep it with yourself, well, the chances are very big that the fantasy will stay the fantasy, yeah.
yeah. And it's so interesting. So for me, 41, I think it's conscious, while 39 is unconscious. So what
Uh-huh.
difference does it make? So I'm very aware that I have these fantasies or what?
Well, collect. I mean, if we talk about the black, I mean, it is your personality, so it is more conscious with you. If we talk about this 41, you would probably do more. The 41 is conscious or the 41 is unconscious?
One is conscious and
Yeah.
39 is unconscious.
So yeah, I would say the 41 is very mind way. So it's very thinking. It's the personality you are, and the 39 is a body thing. So I would say your body is teasing.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if your mind it is teasing, but I think you're teasing with your body. So that would I say, like, like you like to use maybe a shoulder or the hair or like something there going, maybe something around or yeah, I don't know. But I would say that if the 39 is more conscious, like more the mind, then you would
I feel
probably no, it's interesting, right? It's unconscious. Your body is doing it. So it is the body. And if your 39 was conscious, it was the mind, then probably you would talk about it more. You would tease more in the voice or in the what you're saying. Oh yeah,
right.
are you really going that way? Oh, why are you going that way? I'm going that way. Right? So but that is the voice, that is the mind, that's the black one. And the red one is not saying anything, but it's just doing like this and then you go off, right?
Yeah, oh my God. It's so incredible. It blows my mind how these things work. Literally,
Oh,
this little, like, somebody can look at that and describe your personality. How's that possible?
I always like it when I don't know a person at all, and you just to be like, be brutally, honest with the human design. And 9 out of 10 times they're like, "Wow, this is so." I mean, you're describing me better than my mother does,
Oh, true.
and it's like, "Oh my God!" And
Somebody who knows this really well can read into some of the things that you don't even expose to other people. You don't really tell to other people, like on sexuality, like gate 40, say. Like you just say, well, somebody with a gate 40 can potentially masturbate. Would you like to share? Go around and share it with everybody.
oh, that's true. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, but what can be maybe interesting if you know this and you are in a relationship and you found out that your partner who has the gate 40 is masturbating a lot, besides having sex with each other, you could maybe think, oh, is something wrong with me or am I not enough for that person? But it can also mean that this person needs to have that expression of that own desire of to masturbate, to have that gate of aloneness, being with the own sexual parts. And and that could be maybe like, oh, I understand, this is something from you. I always say it when I meet second line profiles. They need to have their own space. They need to have to be on their own, like literally on their own. And it's not about the other person. It is just they need to have their own space. If you are in a relationship and you don't have that in your system, like second line, but you're in a relationship with a second line, you don't understand why this person needs to have their own space. You think something is wrong with the relationship, or you think something is wrong with your dynamics, which is not anything happening. So that's why human design can also be very, useful to understand, having the gate of crisis and the gate of friction and the gate of, like sometimes it happens in the relationship that emotionally things are getting boiled up and getting crisis. But it is a way to evolve and grow. And now I know in a lot of things in human design with my wife, for example, this is me and this is you. And I don't have to have any discussion about it. I don't have to change it. It's just happening. And, it is how it works. But if you think something is wrong, ooh, what's happening now? Oh, why is this crisis coming from? What did I do wrong? Blah, 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 blah. That's the bullshit. So it can be very useful to know if your partner loves to masturbate. That's the
Let them
conclusion.
buy them toys.
Buy them toys. Yes, exactly. Well, maybe something. Yeah, that could be interesting.
Or you can look at the chart of a famous person, and you're like, oh, they like to masturbate.
For example, yeah. For example. So
Are you
yeah,
call-
so
are you calling me a famous person?
Yes.
yes, you're
Yes.
very famous, Marta. You're very famous. So yeah, so we talked now about the tribal, the individual, and the collective circuitry, and I think yeah, that is the way with part one. I think the most thing we can talk about sex in human design, and I mean it goes, of course, with everything way further, and it's can be way more complicated. But I think this is the basis of how these gates around that emotional center and the sacral is working. And then you have, of course, and we can maybe later on have a episode, but I think we're gonna round up this first season. But you're gonna probably say this, Marta, later. But this, sorry,
Stepping on my toes.
sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm leaving. So yeah, so but the spleen on the other side. So for me, for example, I don't have a lot of activities around the emotional and this. Yeah, I mean, I have the sacral, of course, but it's not really happening in that place. So for me, and the spleen is all about caring. It is all about, literally caring for your community, caring for people. And that's a place where my sexuality can go on if I can, be really there for a person and care for them. And I love being there for people. It's just like, if I meet a person, I can sense something is off, and I would love to dig into this and like listen and oh yeah, and maybe this and help a person, and that's a place where I get turned on off. That's so yeah, and that's the way for me it's working more. But
But maybe we can before we close it, just share each, given
mhm.
our each our design, how this shows up in our life, just to give like a synthesis of what do you think?
Yeah, I think what I would love to say to people who are listening to this is that with my design, for example, with a lot of designs, is that sexuality is not, in my design is not something that is always there. Uh, and most of the time, maybe it's not there. And if you think that something is wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with you. It can happen with you meet another person, it works on faster, or like it works better. But I think for me, when I found out that the caring part was way more the way it works for me, that's the place where I get, like turned on and, working sexuality. That for me, there was like I was so happy to hear that, because for the first time I didn't feel that there was something wrong with me. And like all these people who are talking like you have to have at least like 4 times a week you have sex with your partner and blah blah blah. Ah, that's bullshit. And what I mean with that is that a lot of people don't have that energy to do that. It maybe can happen though, but it's for a lot of people, it is a lot of work in their design to have that sex all the time. For some people, it doesn't. It works pretty well in a way, but for a lot of people, it doesn't work that way. And I wanted to say to the people who are listening that, well, if you don't have that turn on so much, it's nothing wrong with you, and just find your strategy and authority where get in the right people into your environment, and I mean sex will still be there. It's not that it's not there, so that's what something I wanted to say with my design though.
Nice, nice. And Marta?
Oof. I don't really know what to say about reflecting on my particular, what I've learned in this past 2 weeks, I guess, is that it was hard for me to connect to my emotions to my sexuality. And apparently, emotions is where the sexuality is. But it was incredible to also learn how these little activations describe my sexual personality so well. And it brought some insight, as in like more conscious awareness. Oh yeah. So it's not so much like unconscious anymore. Now I'm aware of that. Oh, okay, that's how it works, and that's very useful. That's very useful. And it also gave me some insight on some of my past relationships or um, situations with certain people who I know have certain activations. So I know that back in the days, in my past experiences, I used to internalize, like you say, Willie, a lot of, especially being in a relationship with emotional beings, being completely emotionally open and making it all about myself. Like, oh, what's wrong? Why don't you want to have sex? Oh, well, what's wrong with me? Am I like making it about me?
Yep.
And that's painful. When you make everything about yourself, there's something wrong with you. They don't want you. You're not good enough. Whatever, blah blah, bullshit. But also the other insight was that the care, my spleen is also very active, and there's you just said that it's all about caring, and so definitely I am very much about caring for my community, for my people, for my family, so that made a lot of sense. And I guess to wrap it up as a conclusion of whatever I just said is it helps to bring awareness and to understand why certain things the way they are, because as you said, Willie, it helps just release that pressure of, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, everything's fine. If I just become aware of these particular sort of traits, features of my specific design, then I can flow more easily in my relationships with others and in life.
Great.
Nice.
Nice talk.
And
Yeah.
now, mic drop.
And now we go
Yeah,
and now we go to the person who has sex every day.
not
Choo
every day,
choo.
not every day, not every day, but I am
Joking.
with my 59.5, the Casanova, the messenger of sex. Often I know what the other person needs to break down the barrier to start the relationship. And of course, my 1949 super sensitive, hyper sensitive, tribal needs somebody who's aligned, who can walk hand in hand. Literally, that's the first thing I do. I grab their hand and I'm like, okay, how does that feel? Because if they're really not comfortable with it, then I'm like, well, no, that's not for me. Oh, actually, it happened to me back in KL recently. Like we had a nice dinner, and I was like, "Oh, can I grab you? Can I hold your hand?" And she had like, "Argh!" And I was like, I was shocked. I was like, "What? What just happened?" So then that was for me, that was done.
Yep.
So it's a good indicator. And then of course, like sweet talking, going deep in the ooh la la, yes, oh, the depths of the soul, yes, it's so magnificent, yes, yes, yes. That's like so, and having no fantasizing, or that collective circuitry, I can really appreciate it when I'm with somebody who does and tease around that and amplify it, and even observe myself being more imaginative, fantasizing when I'm around with somebody like that who has the 4130. So yeah, that's what I want to share.
Yeah,
Hmm.
great. I think these two podcasts were pretty open. We shared a lot about ourselves, and but I love that. I love the that we don't hold back into that sharing, and also because I think when we are truly authentic in this, you can really understand the human design, how beautiful the human design system is, because it is. I mean, I don't know if it's a super truth or something, but it's. I mean, it's so beautiful to really. You can really see so many beautiful things in your design, and I would love for people to, even though it's a mini, a mini thing about your design you understand, especially strategy authority, that will help a lot of people so much in their lives. So I would hope that people listen to this a lot and really also dig into their design and try to figure out stuff.
But it's funny because none of us have the second or fifth line in our profile. So
True,
we were all pretty open to share. But imagine if one of us had a two or second line or fifth line, then it would have been like
true.
much more cautious like that. Yeah.
That's true. That's actually true.
Yeah.
Wow. So Marta, now you have to say something to the audience.
Is it say something I'm giving up on you? Is that good enough? No.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, that was an amazing episode. I feel like one of the best ones we've done so far. If I've learned so much to know about you guys, but I've learned so much, and I got a whole other glimpse on the human design system that I had no idea about. So it was very super interesting to learn and get a deeper insight on some of the mechanics of the specific body mind. So very cool. Thank you so much, you guys, Juju, Willie. And this is our last episode for our season one. That's what we've decided. We've decided to stop on number nine, the number of completion. We're wrapping this up with this episode, only to step back a little, take a breath, and come back to you with something new. Perhaps maybe inviting other people in and having different kind of other conversations and in exploring deeper and on embodiment part and whatever wants to be brought forward through us. We're going to do that in the season two when we come back. So I hope that you've drawn a lot of value from this season one as we have. I hope that it was as interesting, engaging, and insightful as it was for us. I hope that you've enjoyed this whole thing, and I hope that you are also as eagerly waiting for this next step, next season that we're going to step into at some point in the near future, hopefully. So, thank you so much for being with us. We are grateful for this journey together. Please do continue giving us your feedback. We want to know how can we contribute, how can we help you step into your differentiation, your personality, your individuality even more. We would be so happy to use your feedback, to use your need to perhaps offer you what we have to help you live your best life, drive your Ferrari. Referring back to the opening episode. Thank you so much. See you in the season two. We love you. Here's the heart.
Love.
And only I have it.
Only she has the heart.
Ciao.
Yeah, I have the heart. Bye.